Hello, friends, and welcome to the Professional Procrastinator. I'm your host, Rohila, and if you're tuning in, chances are you're ready to turn the page on your procrastination habits. Each episode is a step towards action. No guilt, just positive energy and better strategies. Let's jump in and make procrastination a thing of the past. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Professional Procrastinator podcast. In this episode, we are going to explore the 3 ways that your brain is actually causing self-sabotage. So before we get into that, let's talk about what self-sabotage is in itself. You're probably familiar with the term sabotage. It just means ruining success. When it comes to self-sabotage, what that means is ruining our own success. And immediately you're probably thinking, why would anyone ever do this? Why would I do this to myself? Why would I sabotage myself and prevent myself from achieving my goals and my dreams and everything that I say I want to do? Well, my friends, it's not necessarily you, but it's rather your brain. Another word that I'll use for brain is subconscious. So your subconscious is what you do without thinking about it. A perfect example is brushing your teeth. Think about which hand you brush your teeth with the most. Now, odds are 100% of the time you use the same hand to always brush your teeth. It's something you do without even thinking about it. You just grab the toothbrush, put on the toothpaste, and away you go. One of the ways to truly start challenging yourself is brushing your teeth with your other hand. And I can tell you, if you have never done this before, it is extremely difficult. The reason being is we have muscle memory. We do things so often, they become a part of our comfort zone. We do them without even thinking about it. It's autopilot. When you brush your teeth with the other hand, I can tell you when I first started, I wasn't even sure how to hold a toothbrush with my other hand. I know it sounds crazy, and if you think it is, try it yourself. But I didn't know how to hold the toothbrush right. I didn't know how to reach for the power button with my thumb on that hand because I wasn't used to it. How do I hold it? How do I move from one spot to another? It was extremely challenging, but it was very eye-opening at the same time. So in the same respect, there are things that our subconscious does, our brain does over and over again. It causes muscle memory and causes us to essentially live life on autopilot. So we do the same things over and over again without having to think about it. Now, here is a terrific example of where this shows up in your personal life. Think about when someone gives you a compliment. What do you do? How do you take that compliment in? Now, here is a perfect example of how it shows up in your everyday life. Recently, I went to a paint and sip with some of my close friends. There were about 8-9 of us. And during this, we're all painting the same painting. It's instructor-led. It's about an hour and a half. All the materials are there, and we just follow along. And it was so fascinating all of the times I heard people putting themselves down after receiving a compliment. If someone went up to someone and said, I really like the way you drew this or painted this, the immediate response was, oh my goodness, this is so embarrassing. Someone else said, I can't wait to go home and burn this painting. It's so bad. Someone else had said, this is so bad and embarrassing. It's horrible. Now, why do we do this? Why do we put ourselves down? Why can't we just accept a compliment? So that person who said, I can't wait to go home and set this on fire, it's so bad, I thought was one of the best paintings. But when we do this kind of stuff, what is the message that we're telling ourselves? It's telling ourselves that we aren't good, that we aren't good enough, that we can improve, that we are not willing to be bad at something in order to be good at it, that we're expecting perfection out of ourselves. And with that kind of a pressure, no wonder people don't like receiving compliments. In fact, receiving compliments is such a big negative for most people that it's even an integral part of one of my workshops that I do with people is receiving compliments and how do you receive a compliment. And so That's just one way that we sabotage ourselves. Now, as humans, we have a natural tendency to hold ourselves back from achieving true success, the real success that we all claim that we want. Now, again, think of our ancestors. They wanted to conserve energy and play everything safe. So we are hardwired that way. If you don't know where your next meal is coming from, you're not going to go running a marathon. So when someone says, I want to go run a marathon, it's difficult for a reason. We're not built to run marathons. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes energy. It takes change. It requires us challenging ourselves beyond anything we've ever done before. But we can do it. But we're hardwired not to. Humans are the only beings that restrict their own growth. Trees don't say to themselves, you know what? I think I'm tall enough. I think I'll stop growing now. A dolphin doesn't say, I think I'm good at swimming. I'll relax a little bit. It's only humans. All other life is constantly trying to improve their situation. Humans do the opposite. We try to restrict growth of our situations. We hold ourselves back because of our subconscious or our brain. Because specifically, it satisfies the two greatest needs of our subconscious. So one, we all have a need to look good. And two, we all have a need to be right. These two needs are driving force behind the majority of the actions or inactions that you will take. Again, the need to look good. I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't want to do something where I'm on notice. I don't want to be in front of people. I don't want to give a speech. And the need to be right. If you don't take those actions and you play everything safe, then you're not risking anything. And these two things drive the majority of all the actions or inactions that you're going to take. So let's go over the 3 reasons why we sabotage our own success. Number 1, to maintain the illusion of control. By holding ourselves back, it maintains the illusion that we are in control of our lives. Now, in a world where we spend a third of our lives working, helping someone else with their dreams in jobs that we aren't even passionate about, we need to maintain some form of control in our lives. And how do we do this? We do this by either manipulating those that we love at home, or we indulge in a hobby or addictions or other forms of escapism. So think about it. How many people do you know who their professional life is amazing? They're excelling at it. And their home life leaves a lot to be desired for. Or their health isn't the best. They're not saving money. They're spending everything. They're living beyond their means. Now, we do that because we need to maintain some form of a control. Or we indulge ourselves in hobbies and addictions, other forms of escapism, including watching television. We do this because we are in control of something. When you're working, again, when you're spending a third of your life working for someone else, helping them achieve their dreams in a job that you aren't passionate about, you need to do something in order for yourself to feel good about yourself. And what that does is that causes you to either manipulate those that you love or seek out forms of escapism. So the second reason why we sabotage our own success is we create backdoor excuses. Holding ourselves back and not giving something your 100%, what you're doing is you're creating a backdoor excuse in case of failure in the future. It allows you to say, I didn't give it my all, and that's why it didn't work. And eventually what's going to happen is you're going to follow that up with an external excuse, such as a lack of time, you're too busy, you don't have enough resources, etc. So by playing it safe, the way that you're sabotaging yourself is you're leaving backdoor excuses. You're not giving it your 100%. You're not giving it your all. You're not doing the things that you know something is going to require to do. So in the case of being healthier, that's a perfect example. You can say all you want that you want to be healthier. And then one of the things that I talk about in the book is how many times do people reward themselves by being good when it comes to eating, by indulging in things that they know are bad. Allowing yourself a cheat day. How crazy is that? I'm going to work hard 6 days a week towards a goal that I want so badly. And if I do that goal, I'm going to reward myself with self-punishment. A cheat day? Saying that I allow myself one freebie? How does that work? It doesn't. That is a perfect example of how you are sabotaging your own success. And the third way that we hold ourselves back is living in the past. By living in the past, by not achieving your goals, what this does is this leaves doubt in the back of your mind so that you can continue to have a goal. This is a little confusing, I understand. So let's take running a marathon, for example. If I say I want to run a marathon and I don't give it my all, I only give it 90%, maybe even less, what that does is in the back of my mind, it leaves doubt and it allows me to continue to have a goal. People feel good about themselves when they have a goal. It's when they don't have a goal that they feel bad for themselves. Now, it doesn't matter if I'm taking any strides forward to achieving that goal. As long as I have a goal, I'm going to feel good about myself. That's the way most people are. So by not achieving success, what you're doing is you're allowing yourself to strive for success. Few people will even hold themselves back to create a sense of doubt that can creep into your mind and control your life. They'll always daydream by living in the world of if-onlys. Now, this is dangerous because it traps you in the past. Now, why is that dangerous, living in the past? Well, first off, there's a clear distinction between anxiety and depression. Anxiety is when you are living in the future. Depression is when you're living in the past. And by living in the past, what you're doing is you are sabotaging your own success because you are living in an imagined world. When you live in the past, this world only exists in one place, and that's your subconscious. So it could be as simple as going back a week ago and saying, I wish I had done this differently. Or subconsciously, how many of you are still living as a child? Still holding on to the negative things that your parents may or may not have done purposefully. Reliving those self-sabotaging moments, those times that caused you to have those self-limiting beliefs that are still holding you back right now. That world only exists in your subconscious. One of the things that I have worked with a lot of people on is negativity towards their parents. They hold on to this negativity saying, my parents didn't, they didn't raise me right, or they had this traumatic event happen. It could be even as something as simple as, here's a perfect example for me. When I was a kid, my mom, every now and then, when she would come home from work, would walk by a vending machine in her office. And if she happened to have enough change, she would come home and give me a bag of Lay's sour cream and onion potato chips. And for her, it was no big deal. She thought, oh, I've got some extra change. I'll bring home a bag of chips. Great. And for me, what happened was every time she would do that, I would be so happy. I'd be like, oh man, my mom loves me. She thought about me today and she brought me this. And eventually I started associating food with love. Anytime I was feeling bad about myself, I would seek out love by seeking out food. Food became the substitute there. And again, at the time, I was living in the past based off of that action. If I was feeling down, potato chips, cool. Now I'm feeling good about myself again. Well, where does that story live? Where does it ever say food equates love? it was only in my mind. My mom didn't know any of this. It was only in my mind, in my subconscious. I would play it out over and over again. I was having a situation to where now I was overweight. And I backtracked. What was it that caused it? And I brought it back to that event. And what I did was I gave that event a different meaning. Instead of my mom did this because she loved me, it was my mom had some extra money. She put that in, bag of chips. Break it down. Rewrite the story. If you rewrite the story, what happens is you are now allowing yourself the flexibility and freedom to make any event helpful instead of negative. So many people fall into this dangerous trap of living in the past in a world that's controlled by their subconscious only. That's the only place it lives. And you continue to play out you continue to play out the events of your life, but in a way that supports the narrative that you are trying to tell. You're either going to be a victim or you're going to be successful. If I asked you what was a devastating time in your life, you probably tell me right away. If I asked you what was the highlight of your life, you can probably tell me right away. But those are the two narratives that we always hold on to so that we always know here is a time when I can control the narrative. If I'm feeling bad about myself, here's why. If I'm feeling good about myself, here's why. And what happens is we elevate those events, those insignificant events, to be so high standard that we feel like we can never achieve them again, especially when it comes to success. Everyone goes back and says, my most successful time was when I was this. If only I could recapture that. Well, the thing is, when you do that, you're downplaying your current level. And if you live in the past, you are then jolted into the present, where you then perceive everything to be negative and continue to increase that doubt. So in wrapping this episode up, we talked about the 3 reasons why we sabotage our own success. Number 1, we sabotage our own success because it maintains the illusion of control. The second reason is it creates backdoor excuses for us. So if we don't achieve something, we have an excuse all lined up. And number 3, we live in the past. And when you live in the past, you control a narrative that only exists in your mind. The majority of people will be happy enough not knowing what to do because it allows themselves certain excuses. The more you do that, the more you live in the past, the more that you hold on to these backdoor excuses, the more that you try to sabotage yourself by maintaining a sense of control, what you're doing is you're preventing yourself from moving forward in the direction that you say you want to do. The important thing about all 3 of these things is to understand you aren't purposefully doing them. If you feel you're doing these things on purpose, change it. You control the narrative of your life. No one else does. It's just you. What's the kind of life that you want? When it's all said and done, right before you take your very last breath, do you want to look around and say, I'm glad I played it safe? Or do you want to look around and say, I'm glad I did the things that I did. I took the risks. I made the most of this life. Thank you all for spending your time with me. Hopefully it wasn't just another form of procrastination. I'm Rohila, reminding you that sometimes later becomes never. So do it now. You deserve it.